From Wana Brands, welcome to Enhance Your Life. I'm your host, Jonathan Small, and each week I talk to people from all sorts of professions and backgrounds about how cannabis has enhanced their lives and how this healing plant can enrich your life too.
Hi, and welcome to the Enhance Your Life podcast. We're your host,
Rick Fitzgerald,
and Monique Jackson-Fitzgerald of the travel website InnDica.com. We're your resource to find cannabis-friendly places to stay, gather, play, and explore. We're sitting in today for Jonathan Small, and today's guest is the fabulous Danielle Jackson, who you probably know as Miz D. She's the CEO of D Vibez and's been a cannabis tourism specialist since 2004. Whether she's leading upscale excursions or consulting with luxury destinations, Miz D has a reputation for serving up the good vibes to her clients and guests. Today, we're going to be talking with her about the emotional value of cannabis tourism and how you all can enhance your own adventures with cannabis.
Miz D, welcome to the show.
Thank you both so much. It's such an honor and a pleasure to be here today.
Oh, it's awesome to talk to you. All right, well, I'll just start it out just so everyone gets a feel for the D Vibez, what Miss D has been up to this whole time. What got you started on this whole path of cannabis travel?
Well, I've always been a wanderer and adventurer, and I love to explore since the time I was in my youth, and I hitchhiked around Canada. And then as an adult, I sought a career at sea, working on luxury cruise ships. And I was a consumer since 1977. So while I was doing all that, I was traveling and not just exploring my outer landscape, but also my inner one with cannabis as well. So I discovered that the two of them went so well together. They really enhanced my life. And so that's kind of what got me started on this journey of cannabis tourism.
Dig it. Dig it. Well, I like your journey. I'm familiar with your journey, but it's nice for other folks to get to learn a little bit more about it. So, what led you to your work with patients and incorporating cannabis as part of their recovery?
In 1999, I was suddenly developed this unusual condition called cluster headaches, and I'd already been a consumer for over 20 years. But it really sort of showed me the power of cannabis in terms of medicinal and therapeutic use. And, we always had to learn about cannabis through trial and error, or if we were fortunate to be around somebody who'd gone before us and could share
Mm-hmm.
their experiences. But that whole exploration process really led me to wanting to help other people succeed with cannabis, both personally and professionally. And so that's kind of what got me started in becoming a cannatherapy consultant.
Yeah, totally dig it.
Can you tell us a little bit more about the cannatherapy work that you do, and what is cannatherapy? Can you tell our listeners about that?
Sure. Cannatherapy is really just about the therapeutic use of cannabis. And it really is really focused on basically your mindset and how you approach it. Because one thing I discovered when I got ill myself was that my use of cannabis didn't really change. It was only the intention with which I used it. So that became kind of a catalyst for trying to understand my own approach to cannabis and how to maximize therapeutic potential. And once that was really, I found like such benefit in my own life. Of course, I want to share it with somebody else. I mean, you always
Mm-hmm.
want to share the things you love with others who are suffering, right?
Absolutely.
And so initially, you started back in 2004, around about there, and that's part of the legacy marketplace, and things were a little bit less out in the open. How did you, like really navigate that whole system and work with patients, but also work with them in a way that was conscious of also, the possible legal ramifications of things?
Right. So I went totally old school. I built my whole consulting business on word of mouth, honestly, just reputation, just putting it out there that, if you had any questions about cannabis use, about therapeutic approaches to cannabis, that, I was there to share with you my experience and to help guide along that way if that's what somebody wanted. It was really apparent right from the beginning of, we've always known that cannabis was such a a social a social thing for us who are consumers. And so taking that self-help and self-healing sort of approach in a group method was incredibly powerful. Just even one consumer sharing with another consumer, but doing that in a group setting was incredibly powerful. I guess I'm just feel like I'm an ambassador of the plant and trying to share like all the benefits that
Uh-huh.
can be.
And I wish I would have had you in my life about 15 years ago. That would have been amazing.
You know, Rick,
Um,
I wish I had someone like me in my life about 20 years ago when I
totally.
started that. And you know, the thing about it is like no matter how educated you are about cannabis and theory, so you know, healthcare practitioners and whatnot. I mean, that's all wonderful, but only a consumer can really understand another consumer's experience. And so it's very powerful when, you know, we know that we deal with those stigmas and stereotypes and the shame of being associated with cannabis. To be able to share that with another person who understands that experience is so beneficial and so powerful.
Absolutely. I've long been impressed by your advocacy work and your love of the plant. But also, I think one thing that our listeners may not know is that you're based out of Canada and Mexico. And so, here in the US, we have different social issues facing us in the cannabis industry and in as cannabis travelers and tourists and whatnot. So what do you think are the issues that face the plant lover in your neck of the woods?
Well, you know, I'm from Canada who legalized cannabis for adult use 3 years ago. We just hit the anniversary of that.
Happy
Uh,
anniversary.
Thank you. Happy anniversary.
Happy anniversary.
But I've been based out of Mexico since 2007, 2008. And so, you know, different circumstances and different locations have different situations, like you're talking about in the US. And for me, what I found is sticking to the core basics. For me, Canada tourism is really fundamentally at its core, really support for the traveling cannabis enthusiast. And how that support plays out could be incredibly diverse. We're so fortunate today to have things like the internet, even though there's still a lot of challenges with that. We're now able to not only connect with other consumers around the world to explore what the local culture of cannabis is like, including legalities, but we also have the ability to begin to advertise and embrace those locations and tour operators and all the wonderful things that go with Canada tourism in a much more public and outward facing way. So, you know, that's really helping address those stigmas and stereotypes and providing opportunity for people who love both cannabis and travel to indulge those two together in pursuit of their own happiness and holistic wellness.
Absolutely. I know there's been some talk lately about cannabis travel and like the scenery up there in Canada with some things like the farm to gate sales and things like that. So, what do you think the most interesting developments have been with legalization now?
Well, for me, I think the most incredible development has been this acknowledgement of tourism and the important role that it plays in a traveler's life if they happen to be a cannabis enthusiast. And that particularly applies to people who rely on cannabis for their best quality of life. No matter what happens in any location, no matter what the regulations entail, one thing is for sure, and that is that for the foreseeable future, we're not going to be able to carry cannabis across international borders. So that really, for someone who relies on cannabis, this is a real issue in which that they have to actually plan for their trip. They have to plan their itinerary around their access to cannabis.
That brings up a really good point because you've guided travelers through different destinations. And so how would you recommend, aside from, searching the internet and checking up on, what's legal, what's not, How would you recommend that travelers find their cannabis community in their destination that they travel to?
Mm. Well, hopefully the host or service provider will be like a liaison for that. Concierge services are big up and coming pathway into cannabis tourism, into the cannabis industry. Very little to sort of invest in order to be able to do that. And it's really about networking because the best cannabis tourism experiences are collaborative. And so typically a person or a place is not going to provide every support that you need. It's going to be a collaboration of people. So whether that includes your destinations, the events that you attend, the activities that you take part of, this requires a village, you could say. So, so, so the Canada tourism community is beginning to come together from a kind of global perspective. You'll find several places online in places like InnDica, your own company,
Right.
Thank you.
curate, events and activities and accommodation. And there's other places like cannabis hotels in Canada, High B&B, Bud and Breakfast was the original one.
Hmm.
Join Facebook groups. There are travel groups now that are completely Canna-centric. Yeah, there's lots of room for more, but at least we're able to now come out in public and say, this is what we do, this is what we love. And, let's get together and let's pursue some adventures together.
Yeah. So we talk a lot, just for full disclosure, you and I. And one of the things that comes up one of the things that comes up often in our conversations is your travel philosophy. You've talked about what you call the emotional value of cannabis travel. Can you tell us a little bit more about that and like what in like a real life way, what it's like, what's an example of that to you?
Cannabis and travel have a lot in common for me. They both, enhance my well being. They both expand my horizons, broaden my perspectives, and ultimately positively contribute to my holistic well being. So, of course, they go well together. And, that looks different that travel looks different for different reasons. Sometimes my wellness travel takes me to spending time alone, going to a really remote place and just being me and Mary Jane in the universe. Sometimes it means being around, connecting in with the local community, having a cultural experience. But ultimately, it's all about learning more about the plants I love, whether that's going to a 5-star resort or whether that's taking a little road trip like I recently did to a little island. It's all about my intention, just like my cannabis use. The how do I maximize the benefits of cannabis is with my intention. How do I maximize my travel experience is with my intention. So I feel like they have a lot in common. I feel like they go together like peanut butter and jam. And
Yes.
it's been an incredibly enlightening experience traveling the world, connecting in with the cannabis culture in every part. It's different everywhere. We have different terminology that we use. We have different acceptability levels, and the people, of course, are as diverse as the cultivars themselves. So it's always a fascinating experience. And the one thing about cannabis consumers and enthusiasts, they love to connect with the plant and its people. And so for Canada tourism professionals, people, service providers, it's invaluable to have that passion for the plant, because even if it's just a one-on-one conversation, that passion really can make a memorable experience sharing that with someone.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about that really as much before until you started talking about kind of the emotional value of cannabis travel, and I realized the same thing. That's peanut butter and jelly. I mean, they really go together, and I appreciate that I appreciate your philosophy.
So I think as travelers and as people, travel professionals, we do have to address the elephant in the room, which has been, the pandemic, right? So we've all been hit pretty hard in, the last year and a half or so, in particular, travel and hospitality.
And so could you talk a little bit maybe about like what some of your recent challenges have been with not just as being an advocate, but also as a, a host and a traveler yourself? And what have you done to like really stay hopeful and motivated about new travel adventures during this time?
Great question. Personally, as a traveler, I've really narrowed down for my own comfort level of where I want to travel and how I want to travel. So I haven't flown anywhere in the last year and a half, but I have gone on some local road trips. So I feel that local tourism is incredibly important all the time, but especially during this time where people are really valuing the privacy of being able to go to a place and feel somewhat safe in their bubble and still enjoy some new change of scenery, right? Because we've all been locked up.
Yep. For a good while.
Yeah, yeah. But as a business owner and service provider, it has been super challenging. We've had our location here in Mexico closed for nearly 2 years now.
Wow.
However, one thing that's been very interesting is that we've still had clients come down. And while we haven't been open for them to have accommodation for them, they've found private accommodation and have still utilized our services, which is really focused on sort of medicals, particularly cosmetic surgery and dental work. So yeah, it's been really interesting how even though a lot of people are frustrated and don't really want to travel in ways maybe perhaps that they might have traveled before, like going to a resort, hanging out with a couple hundred people or whatever the case may be, they're taking this time, just like I am, to do the things that perhaps maybe they didn't have as much time for before. Just, utilizing this time to really take care of themselves. Personal wellness is incredibly important. And that's not just about physical, that's about mental, emotional, and even spiritual. So right now, we had to pivot just like lots of other people. We didn't provide in-house services. We didn't have any events, but we were still able to support people traveling here for medical reasons with the benefits of cannabis. So I'm incredibly grateful for that. So it is challenging, but it is possible. And I think the hardest part is just being flexible and just being honest about our own personal comfort level and then owning that when it comes to presenting that to the public. So, an example of that is when we reopen in 2022, there probably will be some mask mandates depending on where we're at with the pandemic, but it kind of has to just we have to play it by ear and just go with what is, locally enforced, whatever regulations here in Mexico we have. In the Yucatan, we have a mask mandate. So that's not really optional. But depending on what's happening at the time, we just have to be flexible and we just have to do the best we can with an unpredictable future, right?
Absolutely. And flexibility really is key. And I love how you were able to transition yourself from traveling internationally like you did before to really taking advantage of your local scenery, your local destination features, and taking your adventure to the next level, even though you were still local-ish, if you will. So I think it's a wonderful lesson for the rest of us who travel to not limit ourselves to thinking that we have to step outside of our area, of ourselves to travel. You can travel within yourself and you can travel locally as well.
Yeah, thank goodness. And,
Right. And so,
honestly, I cannot wait till I feel super comfortable to jump on a plane and go to some of my favorite destinations. I think the first one, obviously I miss Canada and I can't wait to go back there. But I did postpone my trip there this year because of the pandemic. And part of it is about safety level. And then the other part of it is dealing with a society that was so divided about how to approach this. And I think this is really important because not just personally, but also professionally, we have to choose what we want to do. And the truth is that we can't be all things to all people. So we're going to have to own how we feel and act according to that and know that Some people are not going to agree with us. But the most important thing is for us to be comfortable, for us to be safe, and to provide as much safety as we can for our visitors and guests.
Yeah, totally agree. We kind of touched on it a little bit, with taking care of yourself and just take care of your mind, body, your spirit, everything, which kind of leads me to the question of, so why, in your opinion, why is cannabis tourism a necessity and not a luxury?
Well, I think it's very clear throughout this pandemic, particularly in Canada, but elsewhere as well, about how essential cannabis is. It's an essential service for people who utilize it for therapeutic reasons. It's indispensable. And so it's no longer, I don't think a lot of people, as we've gone on to now, gone through this period of reassessing our personal and professional lives and seeing, how we want to move into the future together, whatever that future looks like. I just think that for a lot of people, it's no longer an option to choose one or the other. That now, everybody I've spoken to over the last couple of years, it's like they're adamant. They've come to understand just how valuable cannabis is to them in their wellness. And so they're just not willing to make that choice anymore. And so the demand for destinations, particularly family-friendly ones, and other things like long-term stays for digital nomads, stuff like that. I think we're at this place where we need to rethink about what the future looks like for us as enthusiasts who travel. And I think that opens up lots of incredible opportunities, especially for someone like, for example, my age, right? I'm in my mid-50s, and now I'm starting to think about the future. How do I want to spend my golden years, as it were, right? And, the community that I want to live in is going to be a canna-centric community, whether it's created and I can just, pop in, or whether I have to create it myself. Either way, it needs to happen, because we're not getting any younger, right? So so we need to put in place plans for our future, and the time to start thinking about that, as we realize through this COVID period, is now. The time is now to begin thinking about that.
Totally.
Well, I think it's it's a fascinating notion, this idea of intentional travel and, like you're saying, intentional living, right? Building a future community for yourself that fits all of, or most of what you need, which is the community aspect and building in cannabis. What else would you build into that community if you could have your utopia?
Ooh, I want to know.
But if I could have my utopia, that's such a great word. If I could have my utopia, of course, it would be a place that really was all focused around the arts and creativity. Because as an artist myself, I would love to spend my time creating and being inspired by other creative people around me. So that would appeal to me. But there's all kinds, we're such a diverse community that there's all kinds of options to build that around, or themes in which to encompass into that. For me, they definitely have to have a disco ball.
Yes,
And
indeed.
it needs to have some water involved with it somewhere.
Okay, so our Ms. D checklist is a,
Disco ball.
a pottery wheel,
Pottery.
disco ball, and some water features.
And yeah, paints and stuff.
I think we got you
Look,
covered.
we're joining you at this place, by the way. We're
And
going to
don't
help
and
you
don't
build
forget
this.
the community garden. I mean, we have to be able
Oh,
to
absolutely.
cultivate and spend our time with Mary Jane and learn and connect with her in all her forms. And so, yeah, I just feel that really take anything that's popular. Whether it's a seniors community, whether it's like Escape to Vegas, take anything that is already enjoyable and popular, and then just add cannabis. That's really all it's about.
I love it.
Because you know, so that's really for me what Canada tourism is all about, what I enjoy and what I love to provide and create for visitors. there's so many other dynamics there. One is first time experiences, right? When people go on holiday, they're often more open minded with their, you know, habits and their attitudes and their wallets. So, having those first time experiences is really important. We saw a lot of that in Canada when we first legalized, this expectation that, wow, what a perfect place to go to if you're going to have, if you want to try it. Right? So, yeah, and a lot of people, they don't travel by themselves. They travel with friends, family, sometimes children. They often have physical disabilities and issues, health issues. So this is all part of what we have to take into consideration when we're thinking and building these destinations and activities and excursions. So yeah, I love cannatourism because it is so diverse and there just is just an incredible opportunity to not only create something that's really meaningful for somebody else, but to actually take your own passions and package them all together and indulge yourself so that you can enjoy your best life as well. So
Love it.
yeah, what's not to love?
Exactly, exactly. We're all about that best life here.
Yep.
So we talked a lot about how travelers can find their adventures outside, how they can really add cannabis to their experience and take it to the next level. But we are home a lot more lately. And one of the things like we like to do around here is to elevate our experience a little bit by using nice accessories, fancy lighters, things that make it so that we're not just sitting at home all the time. So what unusual or what usual ways do you do to elevate your everyday experience and what can listeners learn from that?
Wow, that's an interesting question. Well,
Totally.
Uh, I usually see you sitting by your pool. You've got the sun is on you.
So
You've
nice.
got your tray out. You roll. It's gorgeous,
Anacentric living, baby. That's what
right?
it's all about in my world. I'm not sure how to answer that question, but I will say that I've been to so many incredible places around the world, but there's so many more places that I haven't been and that I really want to visit. And I just don't want cannabis to be an issue. And I feel confident myself that I can go anywhere in this world and I can connect in with the plant and its people, but I want to be able to do that and share that with other people. So whether that's taking other people with me, organizing like a guided excursion, or being able to share that in a more public forum like social media or something with other people, that's my dream. That is what I've spent these last several years working towards, and I feel like I'm there. I'm able to do that now, and how I'm hoping to share that with everyone is through a magazine. So
Yay.
Can it travel life? That's what I'm calling it.
Exciting.
And it's coming out real quick here. Our first issue's on Jamaica. God, I love Jamaica. I've been there 18 times so far, and I'm just
Uh,
getting ready to go back. So you can come read about it. You can look at the pictures, learn a little bit about the history of the culture of cannabis in Jamaica, some great places to visit. And hey, if you want to join me there, you'll come for a visit.
Oh,
Okay. We'll
absolutely,
go.
Go
absolutely.
We're there.
I'm
together.
packing. I'm packing my
We're
bag.
there.
So you said how much you love Jamaica. What's your favorite thing, whether physical, ethereal? What's your favorite thing about Jamaica?
Wow, there's so many things about Jamaica, but I guess for me, what is most meaningful to me is that Jamaica embodies that one love culture, that feeling of connection with others, with the earth, with yourself. It, whenever I go there, that's instantly what I feel from that island. And it's so appealing and so delicious that just, I just think about every time I leave there, I think about the next time I'm going back. So if you haven't been to Jamaica, honestly, when it comes to cannabis, there's something very special about the island. And it is that one love vibe that is really enhanced by cannabis.
That's beautiful.
That is
Yeah.
beautiful, Miss D.
All right. Well, We've got to learn a little bit about you. Where can folks learn some more? Like what website, social media? How can folks find you and find out more about the awesome Miz D?
And where can we find the first issue of Canada Travel Life magazine?
Yeah, good question. Okay, so for myself personally, you'll find me on some of the social media platforms. I'm not a big online person, but under Divide, my company name, D Vibez. Those are the vibes of D, and that's how I roll. And so, yeah, connect with me online there. cannatourism is where you'll find the link to our first issue of the magazine. Right now, if you visit there, you can subscribe, obviously, to our newsletter, which we'll be sending out shortly. And we have got a great blog on there talking about some of our team members, our travels. So, and then also I'm going to be sharing some stuff on InnDica. I can't wait.
We are so excited to have you share your stories with us and our InnDica Explorer family as well.
I can't wait.
It's awesome. Well, Miz D, thank you so much for joining us. We so appreciate you and the love that you bring to the cannabis community and the cannabis travel community. It's something that is, if they can't feel the vibes through hearing your voice, then they're missing something, because it's we're just always filled with love after we speak with you.
Always.
So we want to thank you so much for joining us, and we wish everyone safe travels until we all meet again.
Thank you both so much. It was such a pleasure to be here today, and so excited to see you soon.
All right. Hang in there and have safe travels, and we'll talk to you soon.
Enhance Your Life is brought to you by Wana, the #1 infused product in North America. Wana's entire process is designed to deliver the same great experience time after time. They have spent years fine-tuning their recipes so that their products are delicious, consistent, and potent. For more information, head on over to wanabrands.com. That's Wana, W-A-N-A, brands.com.